Hey guys, it's Julie Spencer, authorjuliespencer.com. If you want to reach me, again, you can get me at my email address at julie@spencerpublishingllc.com. I'd love to hear from you, see how we can interact and make this a little bit more fun. If you've got some ideas on how I can improve some of these videos or improve some of my techniques, I'd love to hear from you. Okay, so in the previous video, we worked on determining the difference between plotting, story structure, and outline. So before we go any further, I want to give you the bad news. You might not actually be writing a romance novel. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm not saying that your novel isn't fantastic. Really, I'm not. I actually love things that are kind of a little bit outside the box. Most of my stories are a little bit outside the box. Some authors think they're writing romance when what they're really actually writing is a love story or a romantic subplot or a cross genre or a drama or erotica or women's fiction. I'm a multi-genre author. I have some romantic suspense, some coming of age stories, some like family drama, or not family drama, family saga, sorry. Some coming of age, a few stories that dig deep into social issues and are really kind of tug at the heartstrings. So my most popular stories are my romance novels. If I were smart, I would stick to writing only romance novels. But just because I'm a scientist doesn't mean that I'm smart. So the other stories that are in my head just scream for me to tell them, and they have to come out or I'll just burst. And so I write them all. But not all my stories are romance novels, and yours might not be either. So let's explore the different types of stories that might contain romance. Okay, the first one is the actual romance genre. So a romance novel consists of two main ingredients. One is a central plot focused around a romantic relationship, typically between two people, that follows the development of them falling in love. And two, a conclusion where the love that these characters share ends in a happily ever after, an uplifting and emotionally satisfying way, either happy for now or happily ever after. And it's going to depend on like the age of your protagonist and the story, just what story structure you're using. So if you can take the romance out of a story, you don't have a romance. It's probably a love story or a drama or a tragedy or women's fiction, or a multi-genre, and we'll get into that in a minute. So the romance has to end in a happily ever after, it has to end in happy for now or happily ever after. So just in a happy way. If they break up or if one of them dies, that's not a romance. Probably it's a love story. So a love story is a lot like a romance, but it's often confused because there's not really a great place on the shelf at Amazon or at a bookstore to put a love story. So they just kind of group them in with romance. In a love story, although the central focus is on the romantic pairing between the two, it may not actually end in a happily ever after or happy for now. It may end in like a dramatic, heart-wrenching, powerful way. And that's more of a love story. And that's my first book was a love story. It's a fantastic story. Okay, so another one that we're going to talk about is women's fiction. Women's fiction often focuses on a woman's emotional and personal journey in life, and it may involve romance, but that's just one part of her journey. The romance is not the main goal of her story. In a multi-genre or cross-genre, the main plot contains a romance plus something else, like a murder or a ghost story. In a multi-genre romance, the romantic plot is equal in hierarchy to the romance. So it could fit into more than one category on a bookshelf or on Amazon. Examples include like paranormal romance, romantic thriller, science fiction romance, historical romance, romantic suspense. Those are some examples of a cross-genre, multi-genre. The next one is a romantic subplot. This is the one that a lot of people think that they're writing romance, but they're actually writing a romantic subplot. Remember, if you can remove the romance from the story, and still have a main plot. You don't have a romance, you have a romantic subplot. So if the focus of your character's main goal is to like save the world or rescue the princess, and they happen to fall in love along the way, then you have a romantic subplot. The great thing about adding a romantic subplot is that the relationship between the two people endears the reader to the characters. And the reader wants the characters to succeed in their main quest because the reader has fallen in love with the characters. So involving a romantic subplot in a story also allows for strong character development. It increases the stakes for your characters, especially if they have to choose between like their ultimate goal of saving the world or saving their love interest. Okay, it just adds a whole nother dimension to the story, and it's a fantastic way to tell a story. The next one that we are talking about is drama. In a drama, there can be a dysfunctional relationship or an unhappy relationship or a death. Drama may contain like destruction, pain, abusive relationships. They're often powerful stories written by somebody who needed to tell the story. It's the story that needed to be told. And it is playing out in the pages of a book things that are just too dramatic to not share. So like I said, it's the story that needs to be told, but it's not a romance. Okay. The next category is tragedy. In a tragedy, somebody dies. It's not cool, or they're otherwise removed from the story. So if they break up or if they die, then it's not a romance. It's a tragedy. The perfect example of this is Romeo and Juliet. And spoiler alert, if you haven't read the book or seen the movie, they kill themselves in the end. It's so sad. It's terrible. They fell in love. They got married, and that should have been the happily ever after if that's where the story ended. But instead, they killed themselves. It's just a terrible example, and yet it's a really great story. So they overcome all of these things, and then they end up killing themselves. So it's truly tragic. Okay, the next one we're going to talk about is erotica and erotic romance. Okay, you would think they're the same thing, but they're actually not. There's a difference between erotica and erotic romance. Both of them have explicit sex, graphic, detailed in the bedroom, or maybe the kitchen sink or something. Kitchen sink, kitchen table. That would be interesting. Hey, you never know. I'm not going to judge anybody. Wherever the sex happens, it's going to happen on screen. The reader is not just going to know that it's happening. They're going to experience every bump and grind. That's erotica. If you can take the sex out of erotica and erotic romance, then you just have regular romance. So these two genres are often used interchangeably because romance often comes with sex and sex often comes with romance. So two people can fall in love and never have sex in the story. Two people can have sex and never fall in love in the story. Or they might meet at a bar, go to a hotel with barely a first name and spend the night together in wild, passionate, and then decide in the morning if they want to exchange phone numbers. I live in a college town. I see things I don't really want to see. In an erotic romance, the relationship is developed through sex, and sex is used to develop character development and to drive the plot forward. Plus, it usually has a happily ever after. So in erotica, the plot is driven by sexual encounters and the goal is sexual gratification. So if you remove the sex, there basically isn't a story. So erotica may not have a happily ever after. It might involve multiple partners, infidelity, violence. That's really all I have to say about that. I don't read erotica. I don't write erotica, so I'm not really an expert at that. But we're going to talk in the next video about how to outline a romance novel. And this is taken right from the book that I wrote on how to outline a romance novel. It's available on Amazon is where you can find it. And it's got a lot of details. I'm going to be whipping through what I'm going to share in the video as fast as I can. But if you want to get the book, you'll be able to get it in a lot more detail. So in the next video, we're going to talk about how to outline a romance novel. And I look forward to seeing you in that next video.